things I think is interesting about it is, I mean, it's this magical thing that I still don't completely understand, but it's interesting the shape that's formed because it's a record of all of the conditions that, it's like how hot the glass is, the temperature and the air pressure in the room, her own exhale, and it's a performance really because she is doing them. The video I think is 2 minutes long, a little over 2 minutes long, and she has to concentrate. She said she takes this really deep inhale and then does a very controlled exhale into the glass. And a lot of times it would blow up, a lot of times it would just fall off. And another thing she was doing that was different than what you might normally do with glass is you normally score the glass so that it breaks off cleanly, but because she knew, but that would change the shape. So she blew into the glass without scoring it and let the glass drop off the pipe. So, and that also contributes to things breaking too. But anyway, and then, so then it was this really nice experience to see the whole process and see this strange form that was created that you can see in the video and then out here. And it was this really nice email correspondence that I read, and there's a recording of me reading it on here, between Megan and I. And it brings in politics, it brings in the different things that we're doing. And so that feels like another record, like another, another record. So, what was I gonna say? So I went down there and we packed it, but it took like 2 or 3 hours to actually pack the glass pieces and all the care that we had to give it. And I loaded the rental car and I brought it up here and tried to be really careful on the way back and got it here. And so everything really, for the most part, I broke 3 pieces, but it was okay. They weren't my favorite. It was fine. Like, I really need for those to stay. And Kim was like, well, it would be interesting if those broke too, because it would be interesting to the idea. And maybe it would be, but I'm really glad that they're still up. And let's see. Does anyone have questions?
How do you feel about it now?
About the show?
What's up?
It feels like feels great that it's up. But it also feels like it's one kind of, like the way I'm thinking about this project is like mycelium. I have a history with being a mushroom hunter. And they grow, there's this vegetative fungi that is like teeny little root systems underneath the ground, thin little white things. And if the conditions are right and 2 of these hyphae come together, they form a fruiting body, which is a mushroom. And so I kind of view each of these things as fruiting bodies, like trying, and then also trying to fruit other bodies. So that's how I feel
Good
about it.
I like it.
Yeah, it's one part of a larger project.
Did you go through any kind of trial and error to hang pieces? Because once
Yeah.
you had gotten them up here safe, you still needed to get them hanging.
I did some tests at home, so I knew what, and I talked to Megan, who's the expert, and she suggested, it's something you use, like a glue you use.
Silicone?
Yeah, silicone. It's silicone, and I realized that I had to put the fishing wire, the filament, all the way underneath for it to actually, stay in place. So I did some tests at home, and had it pretty well set up. So I got here and we placed it, and we kind of, in the room over there, I initially hung them at this height, but then talking to Kim, we were like, well, maybe it makes more sense to hang them by your mouth. But if you hang them, because it's an exhale, but if you hang them up there, it's it's like you're ignoring the room, because you can't see, like where they are now, you can actually see them when you come in, and and there's this heaviness that I feel, at least with that work, that for me feels like it's more of a visceral relationship to your body than if they're up here. It doesn't have the same feeling. So there were things like that once getting in the space, I changed. And then the projection was a last minute change, where that was over here originally, but I realized from a photo that Kim posted that I really needed it to be the same size as our own bodies. It needed to be large, because otherwise there was no relation. There wasn't as much of a relationship there. So that was something that changed because of the space too. And it was not, you know, like you have to sleep on these things sometimes. Does anyone have questions? Other questions?
I don't know how to phrase this, but they are beautiful, sensuous objects that are striking, and their fragility is beyond, you know, what most objects are, and they're powerful, and they look like lungs in a way as well. From her lungs into that shape was really amazing to see. I'm watching that video. And I'm a real object junkie. So I guess in balancing the process, which includes the conversations and the videos, what do you see next for these? Are you going to show them again? And what do you think about when you think of the selection of the actual objects versus the other parts of it that you are working with?
I think that I see this as a very long-term project, and I'm collaborating with Anais Mabiel next, who is a multi-vocalist instrumentalist. She's a vocalist and multi-instrumentalist based in New York. And so we have dates set up where we're going to go to a space to record. And I envision this all coming together at some point in the future after many of these iterations happen that are variations of, like maybe it's like music or something where there are variations on a theme, and I'll collaborate with different artists. And I guess I don't understand your question about this versus the sensual forms.
Well, I think when you're working with multimedia, you always have to make a lot of decisions about, how they work together and where they are in relationship to each other, and how they affect each other. And this, I know this is one first stop for these, and I was just wondering, like when you say music, I'm just interested to know how the music would be a part of everything. I just sort of threw it out to see what you'd say.
How Anais? You mean how my next collaborator will be?
Just thoughts about what the next step is, which you kind of answered, which was that you want to introduce sound and music, which is really interesting, which kind of answers my question.
Yeah, I think that the sensual objects, like I have one in here which doesn't have the same feeling, I think, because it's much higher. But I think they can all go together, and they're informing each other. And I think it's important to me to have this correspondence go with that work. It's like this is the context for those pieces, and so I think it's important to me to have them together in some way.
When she was making the pieces, did you actually hear her breath? Or was it?
No, I mean it was really loud in there.
Right.
Really
so
loud.
Okay.
Maybe she heard her own breath. But I didn't.
You do in the
That's
video.
silly, but
You do in the video.
you do?
Well, you hear her breathing into it. Yeah.
Oh,
Do you
I
really?
should listen to it again.
I heard it.
Oh, you did? Okay, I'll listen to it again. The experience of being there was that it was this very, you know, it was a fabrication space. It was industrial iron, you know, hot. It was very hot. I didn't hear her when she was doing it, but sometimes when you do a recording, it picks up sounds that you don't hear necessarily, or you're not paying attention to. So yeah, I'll listen again.
Yeah.
In fact, part of the attraction of it is the incongruity of the space where these are made and what these forms actually
Yeah.
feel like when you see them. And it's such an incredibly, I don't know, it just seems like an incredibly wonderful juxtaposition in a way, because it's so unexpected. Because I saw the forms first, and then I went to see the video,
Yeah.
and it was startling in a kind of amazingly bizarre and wonderful way.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
intense contrast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, kind of like the spaces to those forms.
They're this.
Like the space is also a deep contrast
Yeah.
to the forms.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep, yep, yep.
Hi, Emily.
Hi, Emily.
I was just, I mean, I appreciated your, kind of how you were introducing this as, you know, kind of an affirmation of, it's political, an act to even just, like, affirm these poetic, visceral, even, like, erotic, you know, just gestures within this particularly marked political time that we're in, right? But I was introduced to the project online just from reading the statement that it was kind of a more somewhat explicitly political framing when I saw your photo and, you know, like putting your body in the middle of the protests for the Dakota Access Pipeline. I was wondering if, I mean, it's enough for me to experience these shapes and forms and your kind of process and its manifestation in this attic, but that was kind of a very decidedly political press release in a way that I was wondering if you could expand on that.
Sure. So I went to Standing Rock after Thanksgiving. I'm from Minnesota, so I thought this is the only time, and so I went back to Minnesota for Thanksgiving, and I thought this is, if I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go now. So a friend of mine flew in from New York, and we drove the 8 hours up to Standing Rock. And we were there 3 nights and 2 days, so it was really short. But it was an amazing experience. It was an intentional community of people. It was this, one of the first people I met there, that first night we were kind of checked in. We got there really late, and these guys were there who were kind of like tired of checking people in, and just like two young girls who know nothing about what's going on. Or I mean, that's what it felt like. They were kind of annoyed by us being there almost. And then we met this guy Victor, who was an indigenous man from LA, who was there and he was learning how to make teepees and doing just like I was able to talk to him, and he was asking about his experience, and he was saying that it was so beautiful and that everything was prayer, and that it really struck me how peaceful and loving and kind the movement is. And we participated in a silent walk on, I think it was Sunday morning, and we went through 4 hours of direct action training. And one of the things that we learned was how to be, we went through different practices, and one of the things we learned was how to be both strong but also flexible. And then in our walk, there was a woman who I met who I love named Lila June Johnston, and she posts a lot on Facebook. She knows, she posts a lot of what the lawyers post on Facebook, and or the lawyers who are working for Standing Rock, for the movement, and she kind of put us in this place. She's a poet. She's very young, but has this wonderful way of kind of bringing you to a different attitude. And a week before, there had been all the violence where there was the water cannons and the rubber bullets and
The freezing weather too.
Right.
in freezing weather,
Yeah.
right? And at the time there was one of the allies. This woman was hit by, what was it?
The rubber bullet.
It wasn't a rubber bullet. It was a concussion grenade.
Oh, okay.
And so her arm came off, and she was rushed to the hospital. And so that had happened a week ago. So we were really encouraged to walk with a sense of peace and also forgiveness. And so the aim of the walk, we walked to the bridge quietly. It was silent, and arm in arm. And you get to the bridge, and there are all these policemen with there's razor wire, and they're all in riot gear, and it's this really frightening scene. And come on in, come in. Oh, okay. And so we went to the bridge, and everyone sat down, and we waited, and then a few indigenous women spoke with a police officer. There's like someone who's up in this mobile unit that has a loud, what do they call it? Megaphone, thank you. And so they're talking back and forth, and the request was that they allow these indigenous women to go down to their side of the river because it had been barricaded to perform a ceremony. And the goal of it was basically to get the police officers, instead of going up against each other in this harsh way, to create the opportunity for this kind of allowance, so that these women would be allowed down to do their ceremony, which happened. And I think even though that seems like such a small, subtle act, it feels like that's an important thing also. And it doesn't get a lot of news media. It was in Vice magazine, but it wasn't talked about other than that, because it's not this big dramatic event. But it was a really impressionable on me moment, and I feel like if it changed anything, it's an important thing. So, and that was a lot of that, like the power of walking silently and the power of using your body, and a way of thinking about your body in the world and how you're using it to kind of create this, I don't know exactly, like an attitude or
How about intention?
right, intention. Intention was very important. Yeah.
Presence.
Yes. So I was totally moved by that experience, and so I wanted to include it. And I think if you're like, some of the correspondence touches on it, and I think the relationship with the body indirectly touches on it. So the show is dedicated to a good friend of mine, Margaret, and then, do you have any questions too, or no?
I think most of them
Are answered.
are
Okay.
being answered in that way. But I
Okay,
also
great.
wanted to ask you about Margaret, so I'm glad you
Oh, good.
bring that up.
Yeah, so Margaret was someone who I worked for, and we became good friends. And she's someone who lived very, I would work for her sometimes, and we would be editing her poetry together. And I hardly read poetry, so I always felt like it was a little strange to be doing that. But she was someone who kind of like leveled hierarchy. She wasn't like, I really respected who she was in the world. And there are a couple of books of hers that are in here. She wrote a book on sculpture where she was talking about the edges of sculpture. And I think she would have been really interested in these forms that were made out here, because she talks explicitly about it in the introduction, which I just reread, about these irregular forms, talking about a space around us that is it's not an unlimited space, but it's like a indeterminate space, is what she says. And so it's interesting thinking about instead of a sculpture being a complete whole, of its edges responding to the edges that are in the world. And then there's a poetry book that she wrote as well.